During the sessions that I've been able to be a part of the budgeting process, which was particularly the case when I served on appropriations in '09, we were able to increase border security funding to an amount of about $400 million, put Apache helicopters with DPS pilots on the border, and we were making significant progress along those lines. That funding was cut this past session in the appropriations process. That's why I was a no on the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Creighton. Mr. Galloway?
Well, first of all, it doesn't matter what we do on the border. If we do not enforce our immigration laws within the interior, we're never going to keep people out. Because if you get 70 miles in across the border, you're home free. I mean, just look around you. Everybody here sees it every single day. And we do nothing about it. We have to end the sanctuary cities in this state. We have to require enforcement of our immigration laws at all levels. We take an oath, no matter what office you're in, to protect and defend the Constitution and the laws of the state and the United States. In addition to that, I would propose a civil border guard that would be state sanctioned, well regulated, and self-funded by volunteers in the state of Texas, much in the spirit of the Texas Rangers were originally found. They supplied their own horse, their own pack, their own gun. They went out there, they may have got paid or maybe not. But they went out and defended the frontier and defended the border against bandits. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway. Mr. Bunch?
Okay, just so we're clear, the border is 700 plus miles long. That does not include the coastline. The Coast Guard is charged with protecting the coast from immigration. The Coast Guard's budget was just cut 25% 3 weeks ago. So our federal government is not going to do the right thing. The issue is not just illegal immigration, it's drug trafficking, slave trade, and terrorism. Our borders are not a single issue. We need to work with our DPS, our county sheriffs, the constables, and the Texas National Guard where we can. And our federal government needs to step up, create a guest worker program for those jobs that are here that we're employing. And we need to tax them. We need to make sure that their employers provide them health benefits. That'll address some of the Medicaid strain in the hospitals and the ER rooms, and that'll track them. We have guest worker programs for nannies, for engineers, and for doctors. Why don't we have it for construction workers and migrant laborers? I think that would address this issue in a multifaceted solution.
Thank you, Mr. Bunch. Next question, we'll start with you, Mr. Galloway. How does experience in Austin compare with private business experience regarding your ability to be an effective advocate on behalf of Senate District 4?
How does it compare? I mean, they're both very important, I believe. I've got 30 years of experience in the business in an industry that is probably the most regulated and most heavily taxed in the state of Texas. I have a very close understanding of what government does to business and individuals. I also have experience in the Senate. I've served as Vice Chairman of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee. I've served on State Affairs, Education, on special committees on emissions and annexation. So I believe it's very important.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway. Mr. Bunch?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. How does experience in Austin, serving in the state legislature, compare with private business experience regarding your ability to be an effective advocate on behalf of Senate District 4?
Just so we're clear, the people you're representing are not in Austin. The people that we're representing are in Senate District 4. And being in business, I have clients. And we all know who the boss is in business. It's your clients. And in legislature, it's your constituents. So I have offices in 21 offices throughout Senate District 4 and 60,000 clients that I currently serve. If you have a business, you have insurance. If you have a car or a home, you have insurance. So I have a deep relationship with things that are touching every constituent every day. Having built a business from scratch, starting off with $10,000 and building it into a near $1 billion organization, I understand how some of the rules and regulations that are being imposed on us by our local government, by our state government, and by our federal government impede business growth. I think if we had more business people in Austin, we wouldn't have so many ridiculous rules and regulations that stunt growth, and we wouldn't have a franchise tax that is an income tax in Texas to me.
Thank you, Mr. Bunch. Mr. Creighton?
Yes, You know, the question is the importance of combining experience in Austin with business experience. And I would contend and state the case to you that I'm asking for your vote in this very important vacancy for your state Senate seat, because I can bring both to the table immediately when I'm sworn in as your next state senator for District 4. We've got successful business people up here. We've got conservative candidates up here. Check, check. We've got the box, you know, in all categories that we need as far as opportunities. Where we need to look are the distinctions and making sure that we have someone that can step into that Senate seat, that can navigate the halls of Austin and all the chaos that it brings, and the parliamentary procedures and rules that it took me 3 sessions to figure out how to not get my head knocked off. We have to send somebody over there that can perform for Montgomery County, voice your concerns, stand for your values, and make sure that that person delivers on your behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Creighton. Sure.
If that was the case, Washington, D.C. would be a well-oiled machine. Experience in the legislature and experience in government is not what drives this country. It's the small business job creators and the local government that's closest to the issues that really drives home how we build our state and how we build our nation. I have served locally, and I have lowered taxes, I have paid off debt, and I have set sinking funds to pay off the next column of debt. I have a government experience as well as business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bunch. Mr. Galloway, you'd like to use your rebuttal too?
Sure, I might as well jump in here on it, because I agree with both of them gentlemen completely. Like I said, I've been self-employed since I was 16 years old. I haven't pulled a W-2 since I was 15. And in an industry that is very heavily regulated. And I have served in the legislature, not recently, but I've served in the legislature. I understand the process. And, you know, I've got the grit and determination to go out there and represent you. I'm running for office because I am tired of the patronizing rhetoric that we keep getting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway. Okay, Mr. Bunch, we'll start with you. Next question. Municipal growth and infrastructure needs have put the government scope squarely on residential communities and private property. What are your solutions to better protect property owners from annexation and forced buyouts?
Well, locally, obviously, the Woodlands is one of the beneficiaries of something that Tommy Williams worked on with Rep. Rob Reisler. The Woodlands Township is a special purpose government that now has the right to incorporate and become its own full-blown municipality, buying itself out of annexation from the city of Conroe and the city of Houston. I think that lays the groundwork for how that can be replicated in other unincorporated areas where there are local communities that have the ability to form their own local governments. As far as property tax burdens go in municipalities, the township does not have pension plans that are unfunded liabilities. I think you need to look at those long-term structural issues that the state is carrying and most municipalities are carrying that they can't fund. If you look at the city of Houston, largely it's believed that they can't fund their long-term pension obligations. So they'll become a Detroit down the road if we don't address it. So I think that the Woodlands Township is a model of how we can do municipalities and keep people from being annexed.
Thank you, Mr. Bunch. Mr. Creighton? Yes. Municipal growth and infrastructure needs have put the government scope squarely on residential communities and private property. What are your solutions to better protect property owners from annexation and forced buyouts?
You know, I've been a strong advocate for private property rights, made some of the greatest headway of any state in the nation over the past few years with the Texas House in making sure that eminent domain and condemnation and the threats to private property owners, that those processes are revised in a way that protects our property owners more than ever. But that's a balance that we have to really struggle with in Austin, in the state capitol, in a way to manage annexation powers of the Municipal Annexation Act of 1963 and the power that cities have, because state government does not give counties and cities hardly any money. So the local governments are allowed, and we all as Republicans agree with local control, to have the powers of growth And you have a check on that by your city councilman and your leaders on townships and others to check that as you go to the ballot box to support those leaders. Austin has to continue to protect private property rights.
Thank you, Mr. Creighton. Mr. Galloway?
Consent of the governed is the most fundamental right that we have in this country. And for municipalities to be able to come in and annex you against your will is simply wrong. When I was in office before, the city of Houston at that time was able to come in and annex the Kingwood area within a matter of weeks. I put up a fight, passed twice in one session, legislation out of the Texas Senate, the only time in history that would not only stop it but reverse it. It died in the House, which was controlled by Democrats. Actually, the Senate was controlled by Democrats at the time, too. But, you know, people have a misunderstanding. As a result, we passed the most sweeping reforms since '63, and the Woodlands could not be annexed the way Kingwood was. But people have a misunderstanding and think our annexation laws were put in place to allow annexation, and the truth is it's just the opposite. Every law that's been passed, for the most part, on annexation since '63 has been to prevent annexation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway. Mr. Creighton, we'll start with you on the next question. In 2011 and 2013, Texas voters passed two constitutional amendments to help fund water projects in Texas. One that provided the Texas Water Development Board with $6 billion in bonding authority to fund loans for infrastructure projects, and the second that diverted $2 billion from the rainy day fund for similar projects. Do you agree with these funding mechanisms? Will the amendments and their associated funds meet the water infrastructure needs of our state? If not, what are your answers to funding the future water needs?
Huge technical question, and one of the most important questions for our economy for the future of Texas going forward. I know we all sound like auctioneers up here, and I can tell you I don't always talk this fast, but we have to because we don't have much time. I led an effort on the House floor this session to reduce the budget overall by 2%. That's a lot of money on $200 billion to make sure that we could fund long-term sustainable water supply without using the rainy day fund. I did not receive the votes I needed by a 15-vote count out of 150. As the will of the legislature spoke, our last effort was to send that home by referendum vote. Our moderator mentioned our prior constitutional amendment that put up bonded indebtedness of about $5 to $6 billion. That is just sitting there frozen because we have not funded a way to service that debt. So we don't have both in tandem. We're actually not using that $5 to $6 billion. It is just sitting there inactive.
Thank you, Mr. Creighton. Mr. Galloway?
I was opposed to, like I said before, the rating of the rainy day fund. I do support the premise of the Prop 6 and the way it puts money in, it allows it to be borrowed against, it creates additional revenue for other projects. It's much like the proposal I had, the legislation I had on the sports authorities in Harris County. But we need to focus those dollars out of the budget, just like everything else. It's all a matter of money and prioritizing things and working within our current budget and not running the rainy day fund. You know, if we've got excess funds, those dollars need to be returned to the taxpayers of the state of Texas in property tax reduction.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway. Mr. Bunch?
The 2011 $6 billion did not include a mechanism for interim financing. So if you have to start paying interest, you can't start your projects because you don't have the revenue flowing. 2013 was fixing that mistake by providing $2 billion in what is a loan to water systems to pay for the interest and interim financing so these projects can get online. The $2 billion is secured by the revenue from the water rights. Who doesn't think that owning the water is a good investment? If I could own all the water in Texas, I would be the richest person on stage. So that $2 billion is a good investment. We're going to get paid back with interest. Do you know what our tax pool fund is paying us right now in interest on our deposits? 0.03. We're getting no return on the money we're holding. So it was a good way to get out money, to get the projects rolling, get our water online, and we're going to get paid back with more interest than we were getting credited in the rainy day fund.
Thank you, Mr. Bunch. Mr. Galloway, we'll start with you with the next